Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we really plunge into compelling topics and we'll pull out the most pertinent insights just for you. Today, we're embarking on a journey, kind of a deep exploration of some profound ancient wisdom. We're looking at a remarkable collection of verses known as the Pañcaka-nipāta. Our goal here is pretty straightforward. We want to distill the essence, the core knowledge from these powerful voices. Think of it as a shortcut, maybe, to understanding some deep spiritual truths. We're peering into the minds of those who sought ultimate liberation and how they actually found it.
Yeah, and the Pañcaka-nipāta, it's a really significant piece. It comes from the Theragāthā, part of the Pali Canon, the cornerstone of ancient Buddhist texts. But what makes these verses stand out, I think, is that they're not abstract philosophy. Not at all. They were deeply personal reflections. Declarations, even from awakened monks, the Theras. These are lived experiences, raw insights coming straight from their own journeys of pretty profound transformation.
And what a journey it is. Okay, let's maybe start with a surprisingly vivid account. It kind of immediately plunges us right into the heart of this whole quest for wisdom. Our starting point is, well, it's quite striking. It's the experience of Bhikkhu Savatthika. He describes seeing an abandoned female body in a charnel ground, decaying, covered in worms. And this wasn't just a casual glance, right? This direct, unflinching confrontation with death, with decay. It had this profound, immediate impact on his mind. It acted as a powerful catalyst, apparently, leading him to completely overcome what's called kamaraga, sensual desire, basically. He saw it, stepped back, sat mindfully, just letting that undeniable reality of impermanence really sink in.
Right. And what's really compelling here, I think, is that it's not just about revulsion, for its own sake. It's about that direct, unfiltered encounter with reality, the kind that can shatter our comfortable illusions, intellectual understanding. It rarely gets you there, not like this. Savathika's experience really shows how such a profound observation can create this immediate, powerful shift, a shift in priorities, perception, laying bare the impermanent nature of the body. And it's interesting, this kind of direct engagement with uncomfortable truths, it's actually a pretty common first step on many spiritual paths, maybe an uncomfortable one, but common.
So thinking about that stark observation, how might our modern focus on, say, comfort or, extending life maybe blind us a little to the very truths Savatthika embraced there? Okay, so once we grapple with reality, like Savatthika did, the next question that naturally comes up is, what do we do about it? How do we act on that understanding? And this is exactly what Rajadhatha gets into. He puts this huge emphasis on diligent effort when you're seeking a goal. He says, quite pointedly actually, that if you strive and you don't achieve, it points to Dabagalakan, which means basically misfortune, or maybe more accurately, a failure to apply yourself correctly.
Exactly. And he has this brilliant analogy to capture it perfectly. He says, Yatapi ruchira pofayavanta von aganta, eva sufazita vaca a falahoti akubato. So picture a beautiful flower. Vibrant color, looks amazing, but absolutely no fragrance. That's what good words, profound teachings become if you don't act on them. Fruitless, just pretty. But then conversely, as he points out, those same words become fruitful, fragrant, even only when they are truly acted upon. The core message is, well, it's a blunt truth. Knowledge, no matter how profound, just stays inert until it's embodied through action. It's the difference, really, between just understanding a map and actually, setting out on the journey.
Right. The practical takeaway seems clear then. It's not just about doing things, it's about that critical alignment between what we know, what we intend, and what we actually do. Makes you wonder, where in your own life do you have these beautiful, scentless flowers, knowledge you haven't quite acted on yet? So building on that idea of focused effort, what happens when that effort starts to cultivate a really deep inner state? Subhujo and Jirimanando, they paint this incredibly serene picture. They describe heavy rain falling outside like a perfectly sung song, Basati Devo Yata Sugite. But the monk, he remains totally peaceful, comfortable inside his simple hut. It's well covered, sheltered from the wind, Chanamekutika Sukha Nivata.
And what really stands out are those repeated declarations about his inner state. It's untouched by the storm outside. He describes himself as Vipassanto, deeply at peace, Santasito, calm-minded, and crucially, having moved beyond those common hindrances. Vidaraga passion, Vitadoso hatred, and Vitamoho delusion. The rain is just external, an uncontrollable event. But his peace, entirely internal. So this isn't about trying to control the weather, obviously. It's about cultivating that unshakable inner sanctuary. It really shows the power of internal resilience.
That's profound. How can you, cultivate that kind of peace, that inner refuge in your own life, especially when it's busy, often turbulent, regardless of the weather outside? Okay, so from cultivating inner peace, we then move into some really powerful personal testimonies, accounts of profound transformation, ultimate liberation. Sumano Thero, for instance, he claims some pretty astonishing achievements. He says he's attained Pubuniyavasai Janami, knowledge of past lives, and the Bakaku Vizuhita, a purified divine eye. And perhaps most importantly, he declares, Sabi miya sabachud marapsidani punabhavo. Basically, all defilements are gone, there's no more rebirth.
Wow. And then there's Vadho Thero's testimony. It's particularly moving, I find, and quite unique. He gives direct credit to his mother's instruction. He says, Matapato da upadasai. His mother was like a goad, the actual impetus for his journey. So this maternal guidance was the catalyst for his aradavirio paitato pato sambodhyam utama, this aroused energy, this self-application that led him to supreme awakening. And he proclaims himself an arahat dakinayo, a fully enlightened one, worthy of offerings. Having, as he puts it, Jitva Namochino Sanat conquered Mara's army, which isn't the literal army, of course. It symbolizes that legion of inner stuff, doubts, temptations, aversions, overcoming all those inner obstacles. It represents the ultimate triumph over oneself. And he, too, arrives at that same powerful conclusion. In Atidani Punabhavo, no more rebirth.
Yeah, these aren't just abstract concepts anymore, are they? They're personal, powerful affirmations of deep, deep change. They really speak to a transformation that isn't just intellectual, it's fundamental, root and branch. And often these incredible transformations seem to start with a really radical reevaluation of what we think is true, right? Let's dig into the experiences of Nadikasapo Thero and Gayakasapo Thero. Nadikasapo recounts his past practice, performing ukavachi-yanya, agihutajuhi, aha, various sacrifices, fire offerings, and he genuinely believed this was the path to purity, esa sujiti manyananto. He describes himself back then as andabuto pujano, like a blind, ordinary person, misguided by michiditi or wrong views.
Right, and Gayakasapo tells a remarkably similar story. It's quite relatable, actually. He talks about his previous practice of ritual bathing. Specifically, 3 times a day, tikatuti vasas, Gaya in rivers like the Gaya, and he was convinced this would literally wash away his past misdeeds. But the big shift came later. He realized true purification wasn't external at all. It came from hearing and really deeply comprehending the dharmas of and that led to him becoming Damalopayato Suchi, Sudosudasadayaro Puto Buddhasa Oraso, spotless, pure, clean, basically a true heir, a true son of the Buddha. So these accounts, they really show us how often our most diligent efforts can be completely misdirected. And that true transformation often requires a radical rethink of our basic assumptions, not just tweaking our methods.
That's a powerful lesson. It reveals something universal, doesn't it? About seeking genuine solutions versus maybe superficial ones. Makes you reflect. Where in your own life might you be unconsciously clinging to external rituals or maybe false beliefs when the real path to clarity lies within? So once you have that clarity, the next challenge is mastery, especially mastery over our own minds. Take Bukali Thero. We read about him suffering from Batarogabinito, some kind of debilitating wind-related illness. Despite this, he resolves to live in the forest. But how? By actively cultivating Pitasukena, Vipulena, abundant joy and happiness, and by developing Satipahani, Indriyani, Balani, Kabo, Hagani, mindfulness, spiritual faculties, factors of awakening. And he does this, it seems, by constantly recollecting the Buddha. Quite an act of will.
It really is. Vakali's perseverance kind of sets the stage beautifully for Viki Deseno Thero's metaphor. It's powerful and very relatable about taming the mind. He compares it to taming an untamed elephant. Olagasami te chita achivar vahantinas, essentially. I will restrain you, mind, like an elephant at the training gate. Or maybe more positively, like a noble, well-trained horse. Yatavarya the Makosalo Sarathi Pavaro Dametia Janya. Like a skilled charioteer tames a fine horse. He pledges to restrain the mind with Sati mindfulness and Viryadhur Nagahito, restrained by the yoke of energy or diligence. It's all about bringing that wild inner energy under conscious, deliberate control, taming it.
And our minds often do feel wild, don't they? Undisciplined, pulling us everywhere. So what practical insights can we take from this ancient wisdom for gaining a bit more inner control, more focus in our daily lives? Then there's the crucial point about receiving wisdom. Its ultimate reception seems to depend heavily on the state of the listener's mind. Yasadato Taharo's verses really highlight this critical role of one's disposition. He describes the upurambachito domero, the fault-finding, foolish mind. It hears the teaching, But then parihayati sathema, it actually declines from the true teaching. And it gives these vivid analogies, like a fish drying up in shallow water, macho apadakyata, or a rotten seed that just cannot sprout. Ketijafa pukika, it just won't take root.
Yeah, and that's in stark contrast to the mind that hears tuhana hitalasirina with satisfaction, with contentment. That receptive mind, he says, that leads to the destruction of defilements, to ultimate peace. So it really emphasizes that wisdom isn't just passively given out. It has to be actively, openly received. It truly depends on the listener's state of mind. Are you open?
Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How do you approach new information, challenging ideas? Are you truly open to maybe having your mental model shifted? Or is there sometimes a subtle resistance already there, looking for faults? Recognizing that could be a real aha moment for anyone trying to learn or grow. And we see this wisdom being passed on too, beautifully shown by Sunkukukan Thero, who met the Buddha and then went on to expound the Dharma himself. It's a powerful picture of how insight continues, how it's transmitted.
Exactly. And then finally, Kōryo Thero brings it all together quite nicely. He lists the qualities of a truly wise, discerning person. Someone obedient to teachers, steadfast when things get tough, possesses profound wisdom, is knowledgeable in the Dharma, and crucially, understands and acts upon the meaning of what's spoken atanyakaya janatita yasyasa, atanga jantanya atakaroti. Which brings us beautifully full circle, doesn't it? Right back to Rajadhatto's flower analogy. So wisdom, at the end of the day, it's about both knowing and doing. Integration.
That really provides a compelling summary, I think, of the ideal learner. Not just someone passively soaking up information, but someone who truly integrates it, applies it, makes it real. Wow. What an illuminating journey we've had through the Pañcaka-nipāta today. We've touched on some core themes, haven't we? The raw necessity of confronting reality head-on, the vital importance of diligent effort, and, crucially, action. Cultivating that inner peace, even when things outside are chaotic. The liberation that comes from shedding false beliefs we might hold on to. The discipline needed for taming our own minds. And finally, what those defining qualities of true wisdom actually look like. These ancient voices, they offer such timeless insights, incredibly relevant, I think, for personal transformation, for living a more intentional, deeply satisfying life. Even in our crazy, fast-paced modern world, they really guide our own deep dive into ourselves.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these verses, they might be thousands of years old, from a very distinct spiritual tradition. But they speak to universal human experiences, don't they? Seeking understanding, grappling with inner challenges, finding profound freedom. That's timeless. They remind us that the quest for wisdom is deeply personal. It requires both that honest look inside, that introspection, and consistent application, putting it into practice.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with, building on those themes of action and wisdom. Consider in your own life what beautiful but scentless flower of knowledge might you be holding right now. What understanding, if you truly acted upon it, could unlock its full fragrance for you? Or perhaps, what wrong views, what assumptions might you be unconsciously clinging to that could be preventing a deeper kind of purity or clarity? The answers might be simpler, or maybe more profound than you imagine. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you'll continue your own journey of informed discovery.